I guess you decide whether it's time or money in that case. Like I said, I didn't find the first version of it great, but 3 months later, it was actually pretty good. It, to me, is a good example of one that you pay for to access. There's a lot of them in here. That's where all this is. Now, there is another platform for this, and it's smithery.ai. And this one's cool because they have built an MCP server that connects to MCP servers. We're in Inception, the movie style MCP servers. They have basically a toolbox that you install the toolbox server, and it can look and find any of these servers and call them and then use the tools in these servers. That said, a lot of these servers require API keys and things like that to access. Sometimes they'll work and sometimes they won't. You can create an account and put in your keys for the different servers on Smithery, and then it can access those things. But if you haven't added Supabase into your account information in Smithery, and then the tool tries to call it, it's just going to fail. Waste of tokens, maybe. So you have to plan ahead on what you wanted to actually call, and then tell it, I want you to go use my Supabase MCP, things like that. This is another one, Tony, to your question about copying code versus using an MCP. I personally, a lot of people love this tool setup. I personally find that I just want to go get the MCP server directly that I want access to and set that up in my computer, and then I can turn it on and off as I see fit. But that is a little bit more initial setup. This, I would say, to me, is an awesome way to see MCP servers organized in a logical function so I can decide what I want. So think of it more like a menu. That's how I do. All right. That is MCPs as what's available. Look through and try them, but let's take a look at some in action. I'm going to run this little application here. This is one we built a few calls ago, and it is a little super simple CRM app. I think I might have it up here. There it is. Little CRM. It's a Python based. Tony, you recommended that we add a Monty client because it is Python based. So this is that little app. And I pulled it back up for the demo of using MCP servers. We can play around with adding a feature to it and see how you would use different MCP servers to help that process along. Just for anybody who didn't see that call, this is a CRM that has the ability to have clients, projects, and tasks in the project. So it's a very linear relationship. Clients can have multiple projects can have multiple tasks. The tasks and projects don't exist outside of a client. Very basic CRM. And we are going to add or attempt to add, I haven't tried this on this particular app, so we're just going to see where it goes. We're going to attempt to add an invoicing feature. So you can go into a client, create an invoice, and just give them a web page that says, here's your invoice. Very simple. Won't be super official, but we're going to use that to demo our MCP features. Sound like fun? Cool. So in your access to MCP servers in the app you use, whatever the app may be, the location will vary. In Windsurf, it's here. Let me pull up Kilo Code so you can see where that is. This is Kilo Code here. So Kilo Code, your MCP servers are in here in settings, and you can manage your MCP servers here, see what's installed. This memory server has a connection turned off because I actually am building a custom one locally to do some custom file management. It's not active right now in Kilo Code. That's where you edit those. You basically edit all of them in a JSON file. So let's take a look at Windsurf though, because this is where we're going to be working. I have MCP servers here and I can configure them. We have all of these MCP server tools that are available to us here. And this tells us the features that each tool has. These are basically the tool calls that are available for each one. This is that memory one I was talking about. Puppeteer, so it can navigate, screenshot. Now you can see here I have this turned off. And that is because I'm not using this tool right now, since Windsurf just came out with their updated browser version that can do almost everything Puppeteer does. It's actually built into Windsurf. So I've been testing out that new browser function instead of the Puppeteer tool. So it's currently turned off right here. You can enable it or disable it like that. And we have sequential thinking. I have a Supabase connection, but this application right now that I'm working on does not have Supabase. I have it turned off because if I say something about the database schema, it will just go and call the Supabase and try to find the application there and waste a bunch of my time. Strategically, I know that I'm not using an app with Supabase right here. So I have that one turned off. It's still saved in my system, but I just don't enable it. And then this is that toolbox one. I have it on so you can see these features that I was talking about. This is Smithery. In general, unless there's an MCP I don't want to bother installing and I know it doesn't have an API key or something, I just leave this one turned off and then I just turn it on when I want it. Very easy to turn them on and off. If we refresh this, we'll have our latest information available. Let's hop right in, and we're going to put this into write mode so that it can think well. And we are going to say, do not make changes, use. So you have to tell it what tool you want. It will sometimes try to use a tool without you telling it, but if you explicitly say the tool, you'll actually get the result you want out of that. An invoice for purchasing a dead parrot. Let's see if we can make one. I like it, Tony. Okay. So we're going to use this one right here, file system and sequential thinking. We're going to use file system and sequential thinking MCP servers to determine how easily we could add an invoicing feature to this application. You can reference the memory MCP server to see details about this app. I loaded that into memory ahead of time so we could see what it would store. I want the invoices to be tied to clients, and they will simply generate a page URL that is accessible to outside parties. Outside auth will show their bill, the line items, and payment instructions. On the admin side, we can add items or choose from added items that are saved in the database. And we can change prices or set terms and conditions. Keep it basic. Do not make changes, just plan. All right, that's what we're going to do. Now let's see how it follows the instructions with the MCP servers. This is where we will probably see part of my love-hate relationship with MCP servers, in that you give it instructions to use them. Sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. Here it used file system and it pulled up the directory tree, and now it has a list of all our files. It's a very comprehensive here list of the files, and rather than having to go and search semantically, it knows every file we have in the app instantly. Then it's going to pick a file here. This is the models Python file. And now it can, from this list, it immediately knew what file it should go to identify how things are set up. Now it's looking at a couple other files. See, it loads the entire file into context rather than just reading a few lines. So we're getting our context window fully loaded very quickly. Now it says that there is no model relationship information. It's attempting to find the memory. And this is something that I found to be very interesting about the memory MCP. It will do a very specific query instead of following the instructions. Now, there are instructions that the memory tool has. Is it? Yeah. So this is the system prompt, if you will, that it uses. And it tells it to do a broad search, and it doesn't do it. It tries to do something super specific. So I took out a rule out of my global rules specifically to see if I could get it to do this error on this call, and it did. What I like to do is put a global rule in. Depending on the tool you're using, it could change, but I like to put a global rule in up here at the top that says something like using memory MCP. And then I will say, if the memory MCP is active, do not do specific searches. First, do a broad search like that. It actually knows what my prompt was because I took it out earlier and it remembers it. I give it a rule like that in the global rules so that it actually does a broad search. And that way it's going to search for the application first and not try to do this crazy thing where it looked for a very specific string of information and decided, that doesn't exist. Let's take a look at what it found. Comprehensive understanding of the application. Here's what it has. Clients already core entities, which is what I explained. Everything's related to the client. And everything is pretty modular. This is our new models, new routes. Now, this is another example of me telling it to use an MCP tool and it ignoring me. It used 2 of the 3 I told it. I said to use sequential thinking, and you notice it never showed up sequential thinking here. It never showed up. That does, again, the LLM is non-deterministic. It may skip the instruction you give it. So we are going to try to get it to use that for the build. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and follow. And if you need help building or finishing your app, click the link in my bio to book a one-on-one Zoom call to take a look at your project.